How's it going, everybody? My name is Noel Lindsay. I love art, music, motorcycles, and adventure. From the backwoods to wild lakes and forgotten roads, I have a deep passion for learning about new routes, places, and landmarks, and of course the people that call this country home. I'm not planning on doing anything so risky as the great explorers, or dying in tragic and hilarious ways like toppling headfirst off a pyramid like the fatally unaware of the effects of gravity Elbridge Rand Herrand, or disappearing into the jungle on a bizarre and what I have to presume was a malaria fever-fueled quest for the mythical lost city of gold never to be seen again like Percy Fawcett. What I do hope to accomplish is to convince you to shove a pair of undies in a duffel bag, fuel up your car, jump on your bike, or stick your thumb out on the side of the road and experience travel even if it's for just a day. Travel isn't always comfortable, but it's always rewarding. New experiences make us wiser, meeting people makes us better, and at very least getting boots on the ground and exploring a place helps us become more than ourselves. Okay, that got a little philosophical. Look, at the end of the day, I'm going to jump on my motorcycle and explore, and you're going to come along with me. This season, I'm focusing on one of my favorite places on Earth, Eastern Manitoba. No joke, and no offense to those dicks living along the Sea to Sky Highway in BC, Eastern Manitoba has everything a rider or road tripper could possibly ask for. Fun roads, great scenery, scenic beaches, amazing landmarks, awesome people, and delicious food. While there are no mountains, Eastman hosts Canadian Shield, boreal forest, and eskers left behind at the end of the last great ice age. It's killer. Any of these routes can be done using any form of transportation. As I mentioned earlier, the important thing is to just get out there and go. For me, I choose a motorcycle. Riding bikes is a passion for me, and like millions of others, nothing is better than the feeling of the wind and being completely in tune to your surroundings. Part of the environment instead of simply moving through it. I became fascinated with motorcycles in junior high when my buddy and I would use our lunch break to walk to the nearest motorcycle shop and drool over the rows upon rows of shiny new BMW R100 GSs. We dreamt of adventure and travel until the crusty shop owner would, notice us and chuck us out on our asses, but hey, it started a passion. Eventually, I became obsessed with dirt bikes, Dakar, and motocross. I would dream of competing on the dirt track or doing a massive rally while flying down the gravel pits on my old YZ250. Eventually, I got myself a proper bike and sipped from the Moto Touring Cup for the first time. The rest is the rest, and here we are now. Give me 2 wheels, a tank of gas, and I'm all in. I'm starting this season's routes out of one of my favorite towns in Manitoba, Lac du Bonnet. Lac du Bonnet got its name from a famous French hat maker, or because somebody dumped a bunch of hats into the Winnipeg River and were way too lazy to fish them out again, so took the path of least resistance and founded a town. I don't know which one of those things is true, but I'm gonna say one of them is at least 20% true. From its young frat party days as a major travel destination during the fur trade to its current designation as one of the prettiest year-round tourism destinations in Manitoba, Lac du Bonnet is nestled along the mighty Winnipeg River, surrounded by amazing scenery and a walleye boatload full of fun stuff to do, amazing landmarks, and fantastic people. From fine dining to one of the best Canada Day fireworks displays in Manitoba, Lac du Bonnet is seriously a destination worth exploring time and time again. I have fond memories of spending numerous summer trips playing at the public beach as a child, then later loitering around town like a bad smell as an obnoxious adolescent. Now, I use it as a launching point to explore the eastern region of the province I call home. Today, we're going to leave Lac du Bonnet and head south to Alfred Hole Goose Sanctuary. Look, everyone along the Central Flyway knows geese are assholes. They hiss at rocks, they attack everything, they crap like rhinos sick with norovirus, and would definitely garrote us in our sleep given the opportunity. But they're kind of part of Canada's national identity, so we're gonna have to get to know a little bit about them. The first part of our route takes us south down the number 11 highway. The number 11 is one of the original numbered highways in the province. Scenery here is rolling farmland and in the summer pops with vibrant greens and under a vast prairie sky. It's a good look, and I love watching the prairies give way to brush and forest as we skip like stones towards our first turn. Smooth highway gives way to our next section of road and one of my favorite places to ride in Manitoba, Provincial Road 307. Here we head east and meander through the crown jewel of eastern Manitoba, the North Whiteshell. The 307 cuts east through the community of Seven Sisters Falls before entering Whiteshell Provincial Park. The park is absolutely festooned with rushing rivers, clear deep lakes, warm sandy beaches, and 4 seasons of outdoor adventure. If you like anything outdoors, you need to get here today. There's a ton of great places to stay, including resorts and campsites that will welcome you with open arms. The 307 itself is a fantastic road, although not without its challenges. From sharp corners and steep shoulders to a couple of unexpected off-camber turns and a vast nebula of murderous tar snakes, you kinda have to be on your game while riding this road. Oh yeah, and it's got potholes, endless tire-killing potholes, especially in the spring. I'd love to see the province fix up the road, but selfishly I kinda like it like this. It's exciting to ride, subtly dangerous like the promise of a scooter ride up a mountain to go see a timeshare in Colombia, but the views are amazing. I should also mention seeing wildlife in the form of white-tailed deer and bears is very common in the summer, so riding at dawn and dusk can be super sketchy. The 307 winds its way through the park before ending at Provincial Trunk Highway 44. Head west and after a couple of kilometers, you'll reach Alfred Hole Goose Sanctuary.
Alfred Hole! We found it!
Remember the asshole geese? Well, here we are. Strap in, kids, this is going to be a bumpy ride. The Canada goose, or Branta canadensis, is a big bugger. Easily recognizable with their long black neck, white cheek patch, and personality of a bar jock strung out on four loko and looking for a fight, they are the furious protectors of parking lots and park paths throughout Manitoba. Okay, if I were narrating a promo for like the Forks Market in Winnipeg, I'd wax poetic about the beautiful river, the lush oaks, and the groomed river path. I'd also dole out dire warnings about the geese. Welcome to the Forks Market, I'd say. Enjoy the beautiful river views and stunning foliage, all while having your woefully unprotected testicles violently attacked by angry birds. There are currently an estimated 7 million Canada geese present in North America. That's a pretty amazing number considering that 55 years ago they were considered to be extirpated, and before that they were nearly extinct. In the 1800s and 1900s, Canada geese populations were nearly wiped out. Between loss of habitat and market hunting, geese numbers plummeted as wholesale slaughters happened in fields and marshes across the flyways. Goose meat was prized table fare, and market hunters were simply trying to keep up with demand. As men do, we created better ways of killing geese. What started with a rifle, soon turned to a shotgun, and eventually the punt gun, which arguably could be classified as artillery. The punt gun. A 10-foot-long, 100-pound muzzle-loading shotgun was typically mounted to the bow of a small boat. A punt gun could kill 50 to 100 birds in a single shot. Of course, during this time, it wasn't just waterfowl that were being decimated. Bison, deer, and at the time, culinary favorites black bear were simultaneously being annihilated in attempts to feed North America's ever-growing population. Many hunters and conservationists could see where this mass slaughter was headed and knew that if something wasn't done soon to protect all fish and wildlife, there would be none left for future generations. It took decades of effort from sportsmen's clubs as well as biologists and politicians, many of whom were hunters themselves, but eventually the North American model of wildlife conservation was born. I'm not going to get bogged down with all the details about the model, but basically it has a set of principles that includes 7 main components. That wildlife resources are a public trust to be managed by governments and the benefit of all citizens. That unregulated commercial markets for wild game that decimate wildlife populations are eliminated. That allocation is by law, meaning that laws are developed by citizens and enforced by government agencies to regulate the proper use and management of wildlife. That there is opportunity for all, which means that every citizen has the freedom to view, hunt, and fish, regardless of social or economic status. The wild game populations cannot be killed casually, but only by the legitimate purposes defined by law. That wildlife will be considered an international resource because wildlife migrates across political boundaries. And that science is the proper basis for wildlife policy and management, not opinion or conjecture, in order to sustain wildlife populations. In part because the North American model of conservation, and in part because agriculture practices began to provide geese with limitless food sources, geese populations rebounded to the point now where you can pretty much get into a fistfight with a goose in any park or golf course in Manitoba. Although I highly discourage you from fighting a goose because you're going to lose. Badly. If you're interested in conservation, there are many amazing books and television shows that cover this stuff in far more detail and in far more interesting ways than I am able to do right here. Alright, where was I? Alfred Hole. Alfred Hole was a local mink rancher and outdoorsman living in Rennie, Manitoba. In 1939, and as old-timey conservationists do, a storekeeper buddy bet Alfred a bottle of whiskey that he couldn't raise 4 baby geese past the age of 6 weeks. Alf was all up for that bet, and so with his sights firmly set on that sweet liquid gold, he transformed himself into the ultimate goose mother. From hand-picking and feeding the goslings dandelions to building a summer house for them, Alfred, not one to do anything half-assed, obtained a permit from the Canadian Wildlife Service to keep migratory game birds in captivity. Come winter, moved them indoors with his chickens. At this point, after soundly whooping his storekeeper buddy's ass and long since enjoying his victory whiskey down to the last golden drop, Alf found himself looking for a new goose-related challenge. So he got his hands on an old gander and it successfully mated with the only lady goose in his original brood, presumably to the sexy sounds of Barry White's Can't Get Enough of Your Love. She laid 4 eggs which eventually hatched and the goose sanctuary was born. The flock gradually increased after Alf dammed the Rennie River to form a pond, and Alf continued to build nesting platforms, eventually spending summer studying with the Canadian Wildlife Service and Ducks Unlimited to manage his sanctuary. Despite being Manitoba's first recognized goose hoarder, the work became too difficult to manage alone. So Alf sold his sanctuary to the province in 1954 on condition that he could continue to live on the site near his army of geese for the rest of his life. There's a ton to see at Alfred Hole Goose Sanctuary. It really is a cool place and well worth a visit. And in the spring and fall, I imagine it's jammed with birds. I can attest that watching thousands of geese descending onto a pond or field in a veritable tornado of furious honking is a jaw-dropping sight. Alright, I know I've spent a lot of time insulting the little feathered jerks, but I do love seeing them on the landscape. And with such healthy populations, I thoroughly enjoy hunting them as well. If you ask a hunter how goose tastes, you'll probably get 2 answers. The first being, like liver-flavored boot leather, and the second, as good as any roast you can buy at the store. If you get the first answer, don't trust your hunter to ever cook you anything ever again. Now, if you get the second answer, invite yourself over during waterfowl season, as you will be shocked at how delicious these birds are. Final piece of advice on eating geese. If you ever see anyone cook goose breast beyond medium or medium rare, call the police because they are trying to murder your taste buds. I thoroughly enjoyed my stop at the Goose Sanctuary, and they have a visitor center with displays that share the history of the sanctuary, biology of Canada geese, and plenty of opportunities to get up close and personal with some geese. Finally, park interpreters offer scheduled programs, activities, and park information from spring to fall, so definitely go check it out. After leaving Alfred Hole Goose Sanctuary behind, head west along the 44 highway. Beginning at the Trans-Canada Highway near the Ontario border, this 149-kilometer stretch of road will take you all the way to Lockport if you let it. Like many non-standard highways in Manitoba, the 44 has its share of steep shoulders and uneven driving surfaces. It's still a great road with lots to see, especially at the eastern end of it through the southern Whiteshell. Today we're only going to be on the 44 through the town of Whitemouth until cutting north and back up the 11 highway to Lac du Bonnet. That's the Alfred Hole Goose Sanctuary run, folks. This loop is about 175 kilometers long, so it can easily be accomplished in one day, with time to explore Alfred Hole Goose Sanctuary and still catch dinner back in Lac du Bonnet. If you've got a weekend or even a week to spend, you could easily take your time on this route. There are a ton of amazing places to stop and explore, resorts and campgrounds to stay at, and more landmarks to check out than you can shake a goose at. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this ride. And I'd greatly appreciate you if you hit the like and subscribe buttons so that you get informed when we release our next episode. Also, if you want to keep up to date and catch some behind the scenes photos and footage, or just watch me act like a jackass on social media, visit us at @EpicRidesMB. Until next time, get out there and explore local.